And then the audio at my end is in three, two, one. You're live.
Hello, 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 Santa Barbara. It's your chantress of everything valuable and beautiful, Elizabeth Stewart. And Adela Lisanti, who's the collections manager for the Santa Barbara Historical Museum, is a friend of mine, and she happened to mention that she was pulling together, along with her colleagues, a show devoted to Saint Barbara and all things Saint Barbara. I think that's a fantastic idea for a museum show. And so I got in touch with Emily Alicio, who's director of education at the museum. And she's very kindly agreed to come on today and talk to us a little bit about various things, how a show is put together, what kind of things are going to be in the Santa Barbara show, and a kind of a spoiler alert. Every so often, Adele is kind enough to ask me for an opinion on an object, something that's been donated, or, would you give us an idea of your opinion of value, or where this comes from, or what the provenance might be? And how I got really excited about this, Emily, was Adela sent me a beautiful limestone sculpture of a saint, female saint, and she was holding a tower, and the
Hmm.
tower had three windows. And right away, obviously we know what that is here in Santa Barbara. And then she
Yeah.
also sent me a Santos, whether or not it was continental, Spanish
Hmm.
colonial, where the origin story was, etc., what year it was, this sort of thing. And so once I got my teeth into those, I thought, oh, wow, I got to find out more about this show. She turned me on to Emily. And Emily is director of education for the museum. 6 years ago, she came to the museum as an intern at the Gledhill library there, which is an amazing resource, by the way. And Emily, okay, so well, Michael Redmond, I think you
Hmm.
remember Michael. Okay, was
Of
he
course.
your boss at one time?
No, so I was coming in right as Michael was leaving, but he's still with us, so I see him from time to time. He's great. So I was under Chris Urban, who's the current
Yeah,
archivist, and
yeah.
I also interned for Adela too, our collections manager at the very same time. So it was a great experience.
Okay, okay. So 20 years ago, Michael Redmond helped me with something that was kind of an amazing moment for me. And I had just kind of gotten my teeth into Santa Barbara. I moved here from San Diego, and I was just kind of getting acclimated. And I had asked Jim Jeter, I think, to give me a tour of the museum. He had either loaned some material. He was a great Spanish colonial a wizard and dealer, and he'd loaned
Hmm.
the museum this like 20 years ago. And so he said that we had a mutual friend. So he said, "Yeah, I'm going to take you around and show you this little pearl of a museum." First time I'd seen the Santa Barbara Historical Museum at all. And I was so impressed. Anyway, I started to get involved with the docent council there, became a
Hmm.
docent, started to take the courses for the docents, et cetera, went through that process. And, I opened an appraisal business here as well as in San Diego. And then I have also an office on the East Coast. So they opened a business in Santa Barbara appraising objects and art and antiques and collectibles. And one of my first clients pulled up in a truck in like a Ram pickup kind of thing, big,
Uh-huh.
big truck. And I could see my office was on the third floor of a building. And as he was parking, I could see him park. And there was this big map, the framed map in the back of the truck. And I looked at that. It's like, wow, that looks old. Paper looks old, et cetera. This old guy, cowboy hat, the old Santa Barbara
Yeah.
uh, outfit. And drag this frame map up to my office. It turns out if you look behind where Michael used to sit, the main desk at
Yeah.
there's a map behind there.
Uh-huh.
And
And
it's
it
a
was
map
that
of
map.
yeah, that's the Adobe, was that map. And
That's awesome.
So it's an old, I think it's Warnicki. It's an it's one of the oldest maps of the layout of town. And as I started to get into researching that, I couldn't find, in appraising, you look for comparable sales. I couldn't find anything similar. Either that was original to the period, it's the second quarter of the 19th century, either it was original to the period or it was a magnificent fake. And I started to look really hard, research that, etc. And the client who brought it in is since passed, long past, but he was apprentice when he was a kid, and he was probably his 80s, 90s when I met him. He was apprenticed as a kid draftsman in an early surveying outfit that had been established here in Santa Barbara, I want to say at the turn of the last century. And so
Wow.
his boss was, obviously a generation older than this old man, and he was 90 years old 20 years ago. And so I said, where do you think your boss got this map? He said, well, we're selling the office, we're taking it apart, and we think he got the map somewhere, but it was always, hanging in our offices, and we just thought it was a nice wall decor. I know. So he was willing to sell it. And I said to him, gosh, can you think about, obviously it's going to be an archival piece that Bancroft would love to have it, I mean, and the issue is that, and they do buy, they will buy your map there. And I know of a couple other dealers too, uh, Barry Rudman in San Diego, and a couple other dealers that deal in
Mm.
maps. And yeah, I could help you sell it, but are you sure? I mean, this is such a landmark map showing all the old adobes, and um and so he was like, well, I could stand the money and this sort of thing, and we went back and forth. And I called him the big guns, which was Michael Redman, and I kind of said, here's what we can do for you. What we ended up doing was we ended up donating it to the Gledhill, but we ended up making a facsimile of that map that we could then sell for something, not a lot, but we
Mm.
could sell for something. And the gentleman was kind of relieved, and I think he felt pretty good about donation. But every time I go into the library do any kind of research, I look at that map and I think I can just see that thing. I mean, blazing sun pulling up in the back of a great
Oh
big
my
pickup.
gosh.
Yeah, and jostling around, and then this old guy kind of hoiking it literally up to 3 stories of stairs up to my office. So, and think about this thing that I've often thought about, people that are in your line of work. How do these things stay around in our world that long when people, I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely, this is not, it's not museum mounted. It wasn't
Mhm.
framed correctly. It was in the blazing sun. It was in terrible humidities, fluctuation. It was such in a moldy basement for a while. Nobody took care of it. Nobody did any kind of preservation around it, and the map is what, in 1830 something. And it's
Mhm.
been what happened. I came, and of course, what I do for a living, Emily. So I came to the realization that there's a little angel over certain precious things, and that little angel doesn't give up. And certain times that little angel will give up and say, well, that's it. This one, his life is over. But in many cases, uh, throughout my career, I have found out that even the people that are not trained, like you're trained in history, I have a doctorate in art
Mhm.
history, da 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 da. So people that aren't trained at a certain level, you think, well, why did this old man keep this thing? He had no concept of what it was. Um, another story like this was a janitor for UCSB in the 1930s. found an oil painting, which was the first rendition of the Presidio in San Francisco during the Civil War. I mean,
Oh,
how
wow.
does the janitor
Yeah.
pass it down from three generations? How did they know? And I've come, after 35 years of appraising, it's like an idea that there's that little angel that sits on top of these things that says, you know, look at me, I'm beautiful, or look at me, I'm historic, or look at me. And the people don't really think that it could be anything, but they kind of a gut feeling
Hmm.
to not burn it, trash it, throw it out. Another similar thing, Adela was with me. We discovered a family that I thought was really worth looking into for a donation. And I said, I'm going to bring my pal Adela from the museum and we're going to take a look. And by the time we got there, everything was in the dumpster.
Oh, no.
Adela was pregnant. I ended up climbing into the dumpster and throwing stuff, like,
Oh, my
look
goodness.
at this, look at this, look at this. And the family didn't care, but it was like, what, how, how do these things live then,
Yeah.
how do they live then? They do, they end up in some, I don't know, there's no statistics, but in many cases they live to another life, they live to tell a story. And that's kind of why what you're doing with the Santa Barbara story,
Hmm.
uh, that's why that was like, oh, this is just so fantastic. So um first of all, I want to just say a little thing about the museum.
Hmm.
So if you guys are new to town or if you haven't seen our museum in a while, this is the Santa Barbara Historical Museum on East De La Guerra Street. They have a number of permanent exhibitions, which are absolutely must-sees. And I'll give you a list. There's the story of Santa Barbara. There's Native American civilizations, Spanish settlement, the arts movement, a new century, Paradise in the 19th century, Chinatown and California statehood, Santa Barbara under Mexican rule, and the De La Guerra family, and a few other permanent collections. The ideas for collections and the ideas for exhibitions changes all the time. And we recently attended the gifts, things
Yes.
that people
Hmm.
had given. And I was fortunate enough to have three clients who had given things. I kind of egged them along saying, here, this is a good, and so I was able to take pictures of, a donor of an important painting that had just been given. And I begged, the family to keep it in California,
Oh, my
keep this
gosh.
work in California. And so, it's been such a fun thing to be associated with the museum. Museum was completed in 1964. People look at it and they say, oh, it's an ancient
Yeah.
adobe. It's not. It was done in 64. In fact, the Emily that you don't know is the family. Remember, I was telling you, Adela and I going
Yes,
through
for
the
good. Yeah.
dumpster. That was the general contractor that did all the adobe brick for the museum in
Ah.
64.
Oh,
So
wow.
so we knew because Adela had done research and she knew who the family were, and that's why we got up there and we were okay that there's got to
Looking for
be
some
like,
treasure.
yeah, there's got to be something very significant to Santa Barbara. As a matter of fact, there was. And what the museum wants to do is preserve and celebrate Santa Barbara, and they are one of the oldest cultural institutions. They predate the building. They're they You walk past the building, you say, "Oh, nice building. I celebrated somebody's wedding there." Yada da da da. All you have to do is kind of try to see if one day you can get on a tour or even do something interesting. You got to see one day, or at least believe me when I tell you that underneath that museum is another world. It's huge. It has so many things that people over the years they've donated. In many cases, they've been things that people have that have worked for the museum have saved not the least of which is the Santa Barbara News Press Archive,
Yes.
total saving, the entire staff did not sleep for 2 months, you know, digging
Correct.
that stuff. I know because I helped with the appraisal on that
Hmm.
collection, but they were digging that stuff out of, where the building is downtown, or
Yep.
the newspaper building. And it was, nobody was saying, oh yeah, let me give you money to help you do this. It was the staff that was literally shoving things into cars and trucks and anything they could get their hands on to save, because there's a time limit on it.
Yeah.
That's what it's like to work for the museum. Right now, we have, of course, the story of Santa Barbara is in the permanent gallery, and you'll go and see that from the Chumash to the 20th century. And then those of you who know the museum, you say, ah, yes, I've been to many weddings or lectures and all that. Well, there's the historic adobes. There's the Casa Corroborables, and that dates to 1817, and then the historic adobe to 1836. And you have seen, I mean, I saw a dance performance recently at the small adobe, and
Mm.
you've seen things throughout your years here in Santa Barbara, at the Adobes, and you think, well, that's real nice. But I mean, it's just, not only is it real nice, it's ancient history in California. And it's being preserved, our museum, by our museum. And like I say, what you don't see downstairs, terrific extensive holdings, books, photographs, maps, manuscript, paper, furniture. I helped with the chair exhibit. There's chairs
Yes.
hanging off of, I mean, there's things down there. They're big. It's climate controlled. It's beautifully curated or beautifully watched,
Yeah.
as far as, that sort of thing. But you just, it's an underground that's just, it's a catacomb of wonderful things that, we're so lucky that the museum hangs on to it. And okay, so enough about me. Emily.
Thank you
So
for the lovely
yeah,
comments.
I wanted to give a big shout out to the museum, I adore. And so now, okay, who thought up the idea that we're gonna do? And so I got a couple of questions. You
Yeah.
can address them as you wish. Who thought up the idea that we're going to do an exhibition of Santa Barbara, Saint Barbara?
Mm,
Who thought up the idea? Who picks the objects to be shown? What's the gradation of relevance of the objects to be shown? So that's the second question. Third question, how do you put it together to tell a narration, or do you even want to tell a narrated story?
mhm,
Uh, Four, do you borrow from other folks, or is this extensively out of the collection that's owned by the museum? Um, and then six, what do you hope to achieve? Is it, and obviously you're director of education. Is it an educational thrust as an
mhm,
exhibit? Is it an entertainment thrust? Is it more of a crowd pleaser? Is it the Raphael exhibit at the
mhm.
Met right now? That, I mean,
Yeah.
nobody that is going is really a Raphael scholar. It's a blockbuster show. What's the nature? What's your audience? What's your market there? So all those questions. So there's like five main questions there that I wanted you to kind of delve into. Before we do, I'm going to give Emily, Richard, are you still there? I'm going to give Emily 2 seconds to talk about it while we go to quick break, or think about it, I should say.
Okay.
While we go to quick break, then we get back. I want to hear about, and this is a terrific opportunity for me to learn, because I don't see a exhibition from the eyes of a curator. I see from the eyes of somebody who's into the value side. I don't
Mhm.
see it from the eyes of a curator. So I want to know what Emily has to say about that. And I want, at the end of our conversation today, or in the middle or anywhere else, Emily, I would love to hear some of your favorite pieces that you've brought up from the, folds,
Yeah.
that you are thrilled to show, and if those pieces mean anything personally to you. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, say Richard, let's go to quick break. Introducing Emily Alicio, who is Director of Education at our wonderful Santa Barbara Historical Museum. Dacia Howard is the Executive Director. Della Lisante, my good friend, and she is Collections Manager. And we go back a little ways because we looked at the what's the Fernald house when there was a masses of stuff in the front room there. And I don't know, Adela found my name and will you help me identify what's in the front room? And I just loved her right away. I thought she was a golden child and wonderful to have at our museum. So Richard, let's go to quick break. We go back. I want to talk about the show. What's the name of the show, by the way? What's the formal name?
The formal name of the exhibition is Finding Saint Barbara.
Well, okay, that's fantastic. All
Yeah.
right, when we come back from the break, let's find St. Barbara together. Don't turn that down. Okay.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, as we like to say in the business. Or actually, what we really like to say. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mama. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where's my peanut butter and banana sandwich?
What's that, Richard?
Elvis has left the building.
No, 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 no. I was looking for the dog underneath the blankets, but obviously he's gone to lay in the sun somewhere.
Kind of like our cats.
Oh, do you have your cats up there?
Oh, absolutely. And what's beautiful is in the morning, with the way it is right now, from probably pre-spring until probably post-fall, the sun comes through the back window, the back sliding door, and the cats lay there with I have the door slid open with the screen closed. They lay there in the sun. They love it. And then as the sun moves, they comes through those big, what I call cathedral windows that we have in the living room, and they lay on the rug as the sun moves across the floor. They absolutely love it, and I'm so
I
glad they have.
know that sun up there is different. So Richard was, I mean, for years he lived here. His
Mhm.
ranch was up by
Nearly 20
uh
years, nearly.
yeah, his ranch was up at the top by what's the name of that restaurant I love up there?
Oh, Cold Spring Tavern.
Yeah,
Oh,
his
lovely.
ranch is right by Cold Springs, and they left the ranch recently and came up and visited where I have a cabin on Lake Arrowhead, and he and his wife fell in love with Lake Arrowhead,
Mm,
and they said, we could really start saving some money if we bought something outside of Santa Barbara, because I mean, you know,
Yeah,
prices in Santa Barbara are through the roof. So
I
they
bet.
ended up
Twin Peaks.
in Twin Peaks in Lake
Yeah,
Arrowhead area,
Oh, wow.
and it's such a change. I mean, because I have a cabin close by, and it's winter. I mean, it has
yeah.
seasons. It gets super cold.
But
It's
Eric, but Elizabeth hasn't come to visit yet. Doggone it.
I haven't
Oh,
come to his new
no.
I haven't come to his cabin. Yeah, yeah, he knows where my cabins are.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
it's a whole different lifestyle. And here's a
Oh.
guy from Phoenix. My God, I mean,
I'm
whole
a city
different
boy,
lifestyle.
but I have
Anyway,
a cowboy hat and I wear it often.
yeah, I know you were meant to be in the mountains, I think. There's a
I
whole
think
different
so.
world up there.
I
Yep.
think so. All
Okay.
right. You ready?
Yep.
I'm
Here we go
ready.
with segment two in three, two, one. You are live.
Welcome back. It's Elizabeth Stewart. We're talking about Finding St. Barbara. It's a new show that's going to be mounted real soon at the Santa Barbara Historical Museum. Emily Alicia is here. Alicia is here to talk about how a show like this comes together at our own Santa Barbara Historical Museum, why she picked what she picked, how these things are. And Emily, I just have to say, I'm super interested in this because when I was working on my master's in
Mhm.
history, I had Ray Ashley was the curator in San Diego
Mhm.
at the historical, not no, at the Maritime Museum there, and he
Mm,
was our thesis advisor, and so he wanted me to write, which I did. I write about the narrative voice in curatorship. So because I
mm.
was I was interested in how how a story is told with objects. It's sort of been my lifelong study.
Yeah.
And so he said, Elizabeth, I want you to go visit this museum. So he insisted I go to the Museum of Jurassic Technology in
Wow.
Burbank, and insisted I go to the a couple of very unsavory museums about the neo-Nazi,
Oh,
a
wow.
famous neo-Nazi museum, stuff like
Oh,
this. So he was insisting that I go and look at museums, because if you look at the way curators show work, you get a certain direction. You are pointed in a certain direction, and it's can be intentional, it can be unintentional, it can be, what do they call it? When there's, Richard, what's the word when it's underlying, subliminal?
mhm.
Yeah, there can be many, many ways. So anyway, Emily, tell us about what Finding Santa Barbara is telling us.
Yeah. So, first of all, Elizabeth, thank you so much for having me. And
Oh
thank you
yeah.
for your years of support and expertise, especially with this exhibition. Um, we have a lot of great pieces in this show, and it's been so helpful to, yeah, again, have your expertise on them. So I'm excited for you to see it when it's complete this July. So, Finding St. Barbara, our latest exhibition will open July 23rd. And it explores the legend, the imagery, and the lasting presence of Saint Barbara, the namesake of our city, and considers Santa Barbara's enduring fascination and obsession with her story and her. Many people may not realize this, but St. Barbara has really shaped the identity of our city in both ways, very visible and in more subtle ways too. So our exhibition will trace the many ways that our community has honored and embodied actually St. Barbara through art, photography, architecture, storytelling, and pageantry. You asked, why did we decide to do this exhibition? The timing of this exhibition actually corresponds with the 100th anniversary of the Native Daughters of the Golden West,
Oh,
Reina Del Mar Parlor 126, their portrayal of Saint Barbara in the annual celebration Old Spanish Days Fiesta. So once that was on our radar, we started looking through our collection. And inside of our Gledhill Library, we have, oh goodness, thousands, hundreds of thousands of photos of Old Spanish Days Fiesta. And with our recent Santa Barbara News Press Archive collection, we've accumulated even more Fiesta photographs, which we showcased in an exhibition last year. So we realized that we have so many great photos of St. Barbara as she's been portrayed during Old Spanish Days at the in the historical parade or at Fiesta Pequeña. And we really said, we can build an exhibition about this. So for those of you who don't know, each year a member of the Reina Del Mar Parlor 126 is chosen to portray Saint Barbara during Old Spanish Days Fiesta. She appears at, like I said, La Pequeña at the Mission or Noches de Ronda at the courthouse, and rides in the historical parade. She actually has her own float. So we plan to share memories of this special tradition through a selection of historic images from the library and also from the News Press collection. So stay tuned for that. But there's more than just photographs too. As we looked through our collections, we discovered that we really have a great diverse representation of St. Barbara. If you've been to our main exhibition, The Story of Santa Barbara, it begins with a life-size statue, polychrome on wood from, I believe, the 16th or 17th century statue of St. Barbara. And as our director of education, it is my favorite place to start our tours, not only for students who are just absolutely mesmerized by the story of the saint, but also for visitors. We welcome the cruise ships every year when they
oh,
dock at the when they dock, and we give tours to the passengers, and that you should see their faces when they learn the story of Saint Barbara and her legend. And then many Santa Barbarans too aren't familiar with the legend of Saint Barbara, so it's always a fun story to share and to hear people's responses from it. So we plan on showcasing this statue inside the inside this exhibition, we also have a couple other pieces that we're excited to share from our collection and that we have on loan from others. We have a fabulous painting of Saint Barbara on loan from the Santa Barbara Museum of Art, as well as a few others from the Santa Barbara Mission Archive Library.
Yeah.
So one side of the exhibition will be focused on Saint Barbara and her legend, and how our city was named after her, coupled with these fine art works. So for, again, if you're not familiar with the legend of Saint Barbara, I can give you a quick summation. So she is a saint in Roman Catholic religion. She was martyred for her faith. She converted to Christianity. Her father kept her locked inside of a tower. And she added a third window onto her tower to symbolize the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and symbolize her conversion. When her father found out about this, he was not pleased, and he decapitated her with a sword. Unfortunately, fortunately, she was martyred for her faith. So in 1602, Sebastian Vizcaino, he is sailing through the Santa Barbara Channel. He's caught in a lightning storm, and he miraculously survives with his crew. They wash up here on the shore on the eve of St. Barbara's feast day, and he credits his survival to her. And thus you get the name Santa Barbara from St. Barbara. So St. Barbara, she's usually depicted with that imagery. So in our statue in the story of Santa Barbara, she's holding a sword. She's positioned next to her tower of three windows. And as you see in this exhibition through artwork and through the ephemera that we have, these images appear alongside with her. And not only just in our collection, but her imagery also appears throughout the city of Santa Barbara too, which is really great. So for instance, one that we may be very familiar with is her tower, which is an addition onto the side of the courthouse tower. That's one place. There's statues of her that appear at Mission Santa Barbara. One of the oldest known statues of Saint Barbara is at the Old Mission in its museum, and a beautiful statue as well inside the chapel at the Mission. She also appears inside the chapel of El Presidio and inside Casa de la Guerra. So if you really look for her and know her imagery, you'll be able to find her throughout the city. So this exhibition is really a call to action for our guests to come learn about St. Barbara, learn about why she's important to our city's namesake, and then go out and try to find her on your own and notice a little bit more. She appears in public art. She appears in many cultural institutions. Businesses are also named after her and feature her imagery. So it's a serious exhibition that asks you to consider her and her story and her legend and how she's portrayed through art. But we also want everyone to have fun and not take themselves too seriously and try to find her throughout St. Barbara. And we give Santa Barbara, and we give great examples of where she's also been found in the past in St. Barbara and how she's been portrayed. She hasn't only been portrayed by the Native daughters in Fiesta. She was actually portrayed by the Native daughters in parades previous to 1924. One of my favorite pieces inside the exhibition is a glass plate that was taken in 1890 by photographer I.N. Cook. And it's of Delfina de la Guerra portraying St. Barbara in the Trades Carnival in Santa Barbara in 1890. And the photograph is crisp, it's clear as day. And she has on the robe, she has a crown on, she's holding her pompon, and then you see her tower portrayed in the back. So it is a beautiful photograph. It's one of my favorites in the exhibition. And it just shows you how far back Santa Barbara, again, has been obsessed with its patron saint.
Well, okay, so I have another story. I have another Santa Barbara finding Santa Barbara story. Well,
Okay.
first of all, I wanted to just mention that the connection with Vinciano and with his ship coming in and getting saved from a lightning strike that so every uh, I'm Catholic. We learn in catechism all these saints, they have
Yes.
attributes. So one of Barbara's attributes is lightning and
Yes.
and also armory and cannon and things that explode.
Yes.
Why? There's a tie-in between that lightning strike of the ship. It's poetic justice.
Mm.
That her father, after he, axed her head off with his sword, was struck by lightning.
Yes.
So, so the story, it's called archetypal. It
Hmm.
starts with an archetype and it builds like a poem builds. It's symbolic, it's metaphoric,
Hmm.
allegoric, etc. So and it becomes a language unto itself. So that's the first comment I had to what you're saying, Emily. Second comment is my son in 2014 married his college sweetheart, and we were too late to get him a wedding at the mission.
Hmm.
But I was working with Brother Tim upstairs at the Mission Archive also because he'd been given some things that I volunteered to help, appraise for insurance purposes for things up at the up Father Tim was up there for gosh, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he would always give me a call, and so we'd sit up there and loved it up there. That's the Mission Library Archive. That's a whole different thing. And if you
Yeah.
haven't seen that, dear listener, that's a whole other experience. Anyway, so we weren't able to get the wedding at the mission. So I had my good girlfriend who had plenty of money to lend us her mansion. And so we had her mansion, um, and it was big enough that I could invite my family from Germany to come.
Hmm.
And so, because we had a bunch of rooms, so my cousin Barbara, as it happened, came with her husband, who was not her husband yet. She's a common law husband. They'd been together for years. They were in their 60s when they came. While they're here in Santa Barbara, my cousin Barbara, who only spoke German, I speak a little bit, said to me, I think we'd like to be married here. I said, well, you've lived together for 20, 25 years. What's the deal all of a sudden? Well, because we're in Santa Barbara. That's my namesake. We want to see if we can be married here. I said, I don't know how you can do that. I mean, basically you're not a US citizen. I'll look into it for you. Of
Hmm.
course. But let's see if we can,
Yeah.
get you wed here in Santa Barbara. And she cried and she carried on because she wanted somehow that myth of Santa Barbara bit her, and and 'cause she looked at all the imagery. I took her to the museum, and she was amazed that someone with her name had such an influence. Yeah, I mean, it had what you saying, Emily, it grows
Mm.
legs,
It
it starts
does.
to grow legs. So she cried and carried on until I found a judge that spoke just that much German and who was associated with the courthouse. And the judge deigned to give them the vows
Oh.
on the steps of the courtyard. And then we went back to the museum and looked at that big sculpture that you talk about,
Hmm.
that you use as the cornerstone for your lectures when kids come in.
Yeah.
And she then said, and she went back to Germany, married, but the German government didn't necessarily recognize the wedding.
Oh no.
I know. So then my story started where I was back at the courthouse trying to say this happened and this was the judge. And then they said, well, we need to know um, exactly what was said, and what was said was in German. And so I mean, it went on and on and on. But anyway, we finally got her legally married, and 6 months later her new husband passed away, and she was so thrilled that she had gotten married in Santa Barbara, and she was also a religious person, and this had meaning for her, that this had meaning
Hmm.
for her. So she took back to Leipzig, which was she was born in
Hmm.
East Germany. She took back to Leipzig the story from our town, Santa Barbara, So, what you're telling me is, there's the objects that talk about it, the photos that talk about it, the imagery
Mhm.
that talks about it. There's the legend, the imagery, and the presence were the three words you used.
Correct.
And this goes, beyond Santa Barbara. It's bigger than
Hmm.
our town, really. And I have living proof that actually this is a true story.
Uh-huh.
My cousin begging to be married in Santa Barbara. So okay, so now we talked about the picture that you told us about the De La Guerra. There's
Hmm.
Delia De La Guerra, yeah, and she's portraying Saint Barbara. What about a three or two-dimensional object in the show? Can you mention something you're very fond of?
Yeah, another one would be from our collection. It is a painting of Saint Barbara dated around the year 1650.
Oh,
Again, she's holding her tower. She's got her crown on, and it's an oil on wood. But it's unique because it is not just a wooden canvas; it's a door. So she appears in a door. We're not sure where it was originally installed, but it's a unique piece in the show.
that's interesting. It's a door because when you talk about what the original Saint Barbara, what is she? She 8th century AD? What was the date of her martyrdom? Was it
Um,
six?
it was a little bit later, I believe. I think it's third century.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, so we look at the imagery. So yeah, because it was right after the Roman
Hmm.
conquest when people were trying to decide what Christianity meant. Yeah,
Yes,
so it was earlier. So yeah, it's got to be third, fourth century, something like that. So, well, what the interesting thing is, her tower didn't have windows. It had doors. You know,
doors. Hmm.
I mean, there was no such thing as windows. It had, I mean, it had apertures, but they were, what do they call, like cottage things, where like a
Mm-hmm.
shutters. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there's that here again, it's
Oh,
like a poem or a myth,
yes,
that she's on a door, she's pictured on a door,
yes.
and
Everything has meaning.
yeah, right. So there's a resonance, relevance maybe to
Hmm.
that, something. All right. So that's it. Okay. So also, are you doing anything outside? Is this going to travel? Are you doing anything in the Adobes with this show?
Yes, of
Okay.
course. So I have to say that this exhibit wouldn't be happening without our gracious supporters to the museum and without our amazing guest curator, Neil Graffy. Much of this exhibition,
Oh, I
the
love
con
him.
yes,
Okay. Yeah.
much of the content in the exhibition is actually taken from his dear sister, Erin Graffy, her book, Saint Barbara, which you can't see, but I'm holding in my hand. Um, and Neil is working with us on this exhibition, and he's actually going to be giving a talk about it in September and a public art walking tour to actually take you on the tour of St. Barbara through where she appears in downtown. So that will be in September. But I did mention that this exhibition opens on July 23rd at the museum's Fiesta History Celebration. Of course, this exhibition has its ties to Old Spanish Days Fiesta, so we'll be opening it then, along with another exhibition, Arte de los Montones. So we'll be showing a collection of the museum's Spanish shawls. Many that were worn during Old Spanish Days Fiesta. So it's a dual exhibition opening happening at this party on July 23rd. Tickets go on sale July 1st. So if you're not yet on the museum's e-blast, please visit our website and sign up so you can get updates about all of the fun upcoming parties and talks and walks that we have going on and exhibits too.
Okay.
Yep.
So let me get it straight. So you're um, uh, Neil Graffy is doing a talk in September. You're
Mm-hmm.
using as a source material Erin Graffy de Garcia's book on Saint Barbara and
Mm-hmm.
her stories of how she, what she's found in architecture. You're doing an architectural tour with Neil, is that right?
Public art walking tour. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also doing a shawl exhibition of the shawls in your collection that have come
Yes.
walk down probably many streets in
Yes.
Fiesta. Yeah, okay. And then was another show I missed? Was there something else I missed?
No, that is it.
Okay, okay, okay. And that's all taking place right around uh, this is starting with the talk, or no, it's starting with the
Starting with
earlier
the opening Fiesta
July
history
23rd.
celebration. Yes.
Okay, so the show opens July 23rd, Finding Santa Barbara, and then the history show that you usually have in conjunction with,
The
um,
story of Santa Barbara.
yeah.
So
Don't
yeah,
you
so
usually have something to do with Santa Barbara history right around that time of year?
oh, Project Fiesta, you mean?
Yes, Project
So
Fiesta.
so that is our shawl exhibition. So it's
I
Project
got it.
Fiesta, yes, Arte de los Mentones.
Got it. Okay, and I know Erin was a good friend of mine, and I know how hard she worked on that Project Fiesta. Yeah, terrific loss to the community.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So now Richard's telling us we have to go to break. Well, is it a break, Richard? Okay. Oh, and we have to say goodbye? Oh, okay. Couple of shout outs then. I've been talking with Emily Alicio, Director of Education, the Great Santa Barbara Historical Museum. We're talking about Finding St. Barbara. Show is going to be off the ground July 23rd. It's probably like a D-Day for you, Emily, right? It's like, oh gosh, I have so much to do before then, and here I am talking with dumb old Elizabeth. And then there's also going to
No.
be lots of lectures, walks, Project Fiesta and the Shawl exhibition, et cetera, et cetera. And all the things that once you see this, let me just say the word iconography. Once you see the iconography that's going to be shown on two-dimensional, three-dimensional paper, et cetera, oil on canvas, oil on panel, la la. Once you see that, you're going to recognize even, people that don't know and they go to mass,
Mm-hmm.
a number of our churches, especially the mission, you'll just be, gobsmacked where now I know what that is up there,
Mm-hmm.
that, and why that's an icon. And so and then of course, not to mention, there's been in Europe a cult of Saint Barbara for years, and there's various shrines and churches
Yep.
throughout Europe, especially those associated with her attributes. Gunners, people
Mm-hmm.
that fight fire, etc. I discovered a client that had a little badge on it, that badge with a firefighter, and Saint Barbara was the icon on the badge. From a town in France somewhere.
Oh wow.
So, there's all that kind of iconography, but I thank you, and I thank Adela too for letting me speak with you, Emily, and
Thank
Dacia
you.
too. And yeah, and I really am excited about this. I'm excited that, it's a young voice. Emily is a young voice that's got a terrific nose for history, and I think that's terrific for our future too in Santa Barbara. I look forward to July 23rd, Finding St. Barbara. And okay, that is fantastic. And thank you, Emily, for being with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, Richard. Now, Emily, you see the dog made it back to see
I
the
know, I
back.
noticed that.
There
Very
he
good.
is.
Very good.
He always listens to the radio shows. That's his favorite spot for the radio. Anyway, thank you, Emily. That's super. I mean, and anything I can help you with at all,
No,
you
thank
know,
you. Yeah.
so, if there's anything I can do, and offer some research time, offer whatever, I know a lot of people in town that that would be super interested also to help. I know of a particular person, I can't say a name, but he's got a pretty nice collection of Santa Barbara material,
Uh-huh.
Saint Barbara material, and
Oh wow. Okay.
he's one on the board for the Libero right now. And
Uh-huh.
anyway, so if there's anything I
Well,
can do
I,
for
I
you,
would love your help at least spreading the word about the exhibition, which
oh yeah, well, we'll
we
do
were
that for
doing
sure.
here, but
Yeah. Yeah, we will
yeah.
do that for sure. Yeah. So what Richard's going to do is he's going to clean this up. We're going to put some music to it,
Cool.
and then it'll air tomorrow at 10 a.m. on KZSB, AM 1290 or FM. What's the FM channel? You're on mute, darling.
96.9.
96.9 on FM, and it'll air tomorrow at 10. Then it'll air 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I think, and then it'll air a couple more times during the weekend. But
Can you
we'll
hear
send,
it on online at all or
Oh
no?
yes,
yeah.
yeah, you'll be able
Okay.
to,
You go
Richard,
to
go ahead.
am1290kzsb.com.
Okay. I think you sent a link to that too,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I see it.
Well, I'm going to send you a link to this whole show.
Perfect.
So, what you can do is you can use it like a lot of people that we interview. Richard and I have this agreement. We don't really demand payment at all. We just say, okay, the artist can have the show. So, a lot of our clients, a lot of the interviews that we do, the interview then owns the show and you can cut it up. Let's say you say, I really like what I said at 6 minutes in, you can cut and paste that. You can use
Okay.
that sound bite. That's fine with us. So you can use however the 45 minutes pans out, you can use however much you want or don't want.
Awesome.
So, and then Richard will find some appropriate music and it'll be live then, not live. You'll hear it as the public hears it if
Yeah.
you tune in tomorrow at 10
Well,
a.m.
cool. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, fun. Never been on the radio before. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you have a great voice for it. So
Oh,
yeah.
thanks.
And very clear, some people, especially some people that are in your age bracket, they're not able or they don't like to, or maybe it's not fashionable